This is the Great Basin Seasonal Outlook from July through October 2019, looking at temperatures and precipitation the past 30 days. You can see here on the left-hand side, temperatures have been a little cooler than normal by about 2 to 4 degrees here on the left-hand side. On the right-hand side, for the most part, drier than normal. A few pockets of above normal precipitation in some of the higher terrain areas, but by and large, a slightly cooler than normal month, but drier as well. We've been steadily drying out, but we are still being strongly influenced by the wet winter and spring. So from October through the end of May, you can see that the southern half of the Great Basin is anywhere from about 130 to over 200% of its normal precipitation. Of course, that included high elevation snow. We are still seeing that in our soil moisture. There is still a positive soil moisture anomaly, wetter than normal, especially across the Arizona Strip into Utah, Nevada, getting normal as you head into central Idaho, then dropping off to slightly below normal soil moisture on the northern fringes of the Great Basin. This was the snowpack at the end of May, unusually large extent of snow cover across areas that normally are melted out by now. So that again is playing a role in keeping things quiet across the higher elevations. Drought monitor here, basically non-existent drought for the entire area, nor do we expect any for this upcoming summer. Let's look at fuels. We'll start with 100-hour fuels, and across northwest Nevada, they were pretty high last month, but they have dropped down quite significantly with this very dry June that we've had. And they're basically down to normal levels. Down in the Arizona Strip and far southern Utah, just near to a fraction above normal, but in the 90th percentile. So in those grass brush areas, the 100-hour fuels at least are dry enough. Fine fuels, 10-hour fuel moistures also are quite dry as they get in a lot of areas. We see areas in red, 3 to 4%, locally drier in some spots. Our 100-hour fuels also pretty dry, where you see this pinkish red color here in Nevada, Utah, and the Arizona Strip. 1,000-hour fuels starting to dry out significantly across the far south as well, but across the higher terrain of Utah into western Wyoming and Idaho, still in the teens. That's going to take at least another month before we can dry things out to where the heavier fuels can be receptive to fire. But the other piece of the puzzle is the live fuel moisture in the brush. So here in northwest Utah, you can see how much above normal we are with the live fuel moisture, about 170%. Normal should be about 130. Same thing down here in southeast Utah, well above normal. So until this live fuel moisture drops down to normal levels, which could take a few weeks, we don't expect a significant contribution of brush to the low elevation fire component. It's kind of what it looks like. Grasses are all totally cured out, but that live fuel moisture in some of the brush is the impediment. So we've looked at the past weather, fuel conditions, snowpack. Looking forward, the 8 to 14, the outlook shows above normal temperatures across at least the western portion of the Great Basin, closer to normal further east. But here's the significance here on the right, the below normal precipitation, the lack of monsoonal activity. July 8th to the 14th is going to continue to dry things out across our southern areas. In terms of El Nino or La Nina, we do still have some of those anomalies, but you see this El Nino starting to fall apart now, and the atmospheric response probably will lag by a couple of weeks, but it's been the storm track bringing disturbances through that continues to be the issue, but that should start dissipating. Our models show that El Nino should slowly start to weaken as we go through the summer months. So when that happens and we stop getting weak storms dropping out of the Pacific Northwest, that's when the monsoon will probably develop at some point this summer, we think, but it's definitely going to be delayed by a couple of weeks. So the outlook for July, above normal western Great Basin, near normal elsewhere, but this dry signal, monsoonal signal, continues for July. And this could be quite significant because the live fuel moisture is Vegas, St. George, Arizona Strip will dry out, and we could start seeing significant fire activity as we go through July. July through September, The climate models still continue to point above normal moisture here across northern and central portions of the Great Basin. This is primarily still residual systems coming out of the north, not monsoonal, although we should start seeing a monsoonal contribution from the south as we get into August and September. So we put all these pieces together, and here's our outlook for July. We'll start with a below normal for the higher terrain of Utah and going to eastern Idaho and western Wyoming. And even outside of there, across the higher terrain of Idaho, definitely on the lower side of normal, also below normal out here on the high Sierra, but above normal in those lower elevations where the live fuel moisture should dry out and mesh with an above normal, already cured grass crop. By August, we are concerned about northwest Nevada. We think that there'll be some monsoonal moisture enough to wet down the finer fuels in the south. But this area also has above normal grass crop, and they'll be outside of that monsoonal shield, so we could see these regions becoming our most critical, similar to September, before we wind things down, and we don't have a clear signal for October, so we'll just call it normal for now. This concludes our briefing. Have a great day.